Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Henry Q. Wifflebottom here with you once again, bringing you another helping of our literary treat series. Tonight we're going to continue on with James Barclay's Dawnthief. We finished chapter 5 the other night, and it was on a bit of a sad note. Surinder had just died, saving Densa's life. Chapter 6.
Who was she?
Sana's eyes bore into Hirad's, imploring him to help her understand. They were standing in the main bar just outside the back room. The mayor and 2 bodyguards sat at a table near the door to the rookery. Sana was calm now, but her red eyes and white face were the remnants of a tempest. The raven had lain Surinder on the table in the back room and covered him with the sheet. Sana had burst in and torn the sheet from him, screaming at him to wake up, to come back, to open his eyes, to breathe. She'd pumped at his heart, she'd raked the hair from his forehead, she'd kissed him long on his lips, she'd clung to his hands. And all the while, Hirad had stood nearby, half of him wanting to pull her away, the other half wanting to help her, to shake the life back into Surinder, to see him smile. But all he did was stand there watching, fighting back his tears, his whole body quivering. At last Sana had turned to him and buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing quietly. He'd stroked her hair and heard the silence of the raven and could sense the passing of what they had been. He'd moved her outside, and as she regained some composure, she drew back to ask her question. Hirad felt helpless, useless, an assassin, a witch hunter.
Then what?
Her voice caught. She wasn't after Surinder. Surinder just got in the way. Hirad shrugged, a stupid gesture he knew. He died saving another man.
So, he's still dead.
Hirad took and held her hands. It was a risk he took every day.
Not today. Today he was retired.
Hirad said nothing for a moment. He smoothed away the tears rolling fresh down her cheeks. Yes. Yes, he was, he said eventually. I'll get the man behind this.
That's your answer, is it?
It's the only answer I can give. He shrugged again.
Night has come, Hirad. Everything is gone.
And when he looked into her eyes, he knew it was true. She gave his hand the briefest squeeze, turned and walked to her father. Hirad looked after her for a second, pushed open the door to the back room, and walked inside. No one was talking. The fire crackled in the grate. They were all sitting holding drinks, but no one was talking. Hirad moved to Surinder's body. The sheet had been replaced. He looked at the outline of his face beneath the covering and laid a hand on one of his friends, praying for the grasp of fingers he knew would never come. He turned. Why do they want you dead, Densa? That's what we just asked him, said Ilka. And what did he say? That he wanted you to hear it too. Well, I'm here now so he can start talking. Come and sit down, Hirad, said the unknown. We poured you a drink. It won't help, but we poured it anyway. Hirad nodded, walked to them, and sat down in his chair. The unknown pushed a goblet into his left hand, and with his right, Hirad reached out and felt the arm of Surinder's chair, though he couldn't look at it. We're listening, Densa, he said, his voice just holding together. I want you to know right away that what I'm about to tell you is being kept from you in your best interests. You are digging a deep hole, said the unknown slowly. We decide what is in our best interests. The result of not being able to do that lies under a shroud for all to see. We want to know exactly what you have involved us in. Exactly. Then you will go and we will talk. Densa took a deep breath. Firstly, I make no apologies for being Zeteskian. It is simply a moral code, and much of what is said about us is fabrication. Our past, however, is not blameless. You know something, Densa? You have a gift for understatement, said Ilka. We could have such fascinating discussions, Ilka. I doubt it. Excuse me. Right, said Dancer after a pause. You heard what Gress was saying, and his information is all too accurate. The Westman tribes are rising and uniting, the shaman are running the organisation, the elder councils are working in concert, and we are seeing subjugation of local populations practically in the shadow of the Blackthorn Mountains. The unknown warrior sat up straight. Just how far east are we talking about? We've had an eyewitness account from a village called Terranetza, 3 days' ride from Understone Pass, said Dancer. Gods, that's close, breathed Talon. No wonder Gress wanted Blackthorn warned. I fail to see what this has to do with the death of my friend, muttered Herod. Please, said Dancer. This is relevant, believe me. We've had mage spies in the west for several months now, and the picture is grim. We estimate that Westman armies approaching 60,000 already armed and training are gathered in the heartlands. An invasion of the east is surely imminent, and we have no defence. There is no four-college alliance, and the KTA has a tenth the armed strength it had 300 years ago. Well, what chance do they really have? Ilka was dismissive. A couple of thousand mages alone could stop their advance. They don't have the Witch Lords for magical support this time. I'm very much afraid that they do, said Dancer. The fire crackling in the grate was suddenly the only sound. Talon's glass stopped halfway to his lips. Ilka opened his mouth to speak, but didn't. Richmond shook his head. Hold on, he said. I understood them to be destroyed. You can't destroy them, said Ilka. We never knew how, and we still don't. All Zetesk could do was trap them without a means to escape. He switched his gaze to the Zetesk mage. What happened? Dancer breathed in deeply and knocked the bowl of his pipe against the fire grate. He filled it as he spoke, his cat sleeping on his lap. When we destroyed Parv, it was to remove all vestiges of the Witch Lord's power base from Beliar. It was never intended that action would end the Witch Lords themselves. While their bodies burned, their souls ran free, and we trapped them inside a mana cage and launched it into interdimensional space. The cat stirred. We've been watching it ever since. Watching what? Asked Richmond. The cage. We and we alone have kept unfailing watch on the Witch Lord's prison for 300 years. As others refuse to accept us, so we refuse to accept the word of those who claim ultimate victory. He shrugged. Clearly, you were right, said Ilka. Dancer nodded. We've noted increased dimensional transference, probably through Dragonine action, for some time. One particular move damaged the cage. We thought it was rectifiable. He scratched his head, then lit his pipe from a flame produced on the tip of his thumb. We were wrong. Mana must have entered the cage because the Witch Lords are no longer inside. We believe them to be back in Beliar. In Parv. Ilka massaged his nose and pulled at his lips with his right hand. His eyes narrowed. How long have they been there? He asked. Who cares? Said Herod. I'm still waiting to... Hold on, Herod. No, Ilka, I will not bloody hold on. Herod raised his voice. He turned on Dancer. You might as well have been talking tribal Western for all I've understood so far. You've got your stupid pipe stuck in your stupid mouth and you've bawled on about dimensions, Dragonine, and some old threat that's been going hundreds of years like it was important. I haven't a clue what you're talking about, and I'm no nearer knowing why that witch hunter bastard killed my friend. I sympathise with your need to understand, said Dancer gently. You have absolutely no idea what I need, Zetesk man. Herod's voice was gruff. He drained his glass and passed it to the unknown for a refill. You have no idea of the gulf that has opened up in my life, and you are running in circles around the answer to the only question that could help me begin to grieve. Why did that assassin want you dead so badly? Dancer paused before replying. I'm trying to make sure this all comes out the right way round, he said. Can I explain a few other things first? No, you can explain one. Why did that assassin want you dead? Dancer sighed. Because of what I'm carrying. And what is that exactly? Asked Herod. This. He pulled the amulet stolen from Shah Khan from his shirt, where it had been hanging on a chain around his neck. It's the key to Septon's workshop. Couldn't you just kick the door down? Herod's voice was loud with contempt. I mean, is that it? Is that trinket why Surinder died? He caught Ilka's expression and stayed his next words. What is it, Ilka? The elf snapped his gaze to Herod and focused on him as if from a great distance. Dawnthief, he breathed, his face white as death. He's going after Dawnthief. Errienne was settling Errienne and Tom down to sleep when Ismond walked into the room unannounced. She had been allowed the entire afternoon and evening with them and had chosen to tell them stories of old magic. Neither child strayed far from the comfort of her arms. At her insistence, the fire had been lit and the single window opened all day, though her request for the boys to be allowed to play in the inner courtyard was refused. She had spent some time calming their fears before they would listen to her words, and as usual, none were wasted in her pursuit of their detailed education in the ways of Dordovan magic. She spoke of the ancient days, when the colleges were one, and the first city of magic was built at Trivern Lake, and of the darker days of the Sundering, when the city was razed and the colleges split to build their own strongholds. And she talked of the law which governed the lives of all mages and distanced one college's mages from the others, and of the mana with which they shaped their spells. The boys tired as the light faded and she built up the fire. They took a dinner of hot soup, potatoes and green leaves in near silence. She washed their faces and brushed their hair. The captain had left flannels and a brush in the room, saying a man should always look neat and dignified. Errienne wished he'd take his own counsel. Ismond's intrusion came with her humming a tune to the boys as they nodded off, jerking them back to a startled, anxious wakefulness.
Could you not have knocked?
Errienne didn't turn round at the sound of boots on the cold stone floor. The captain will see you now, said Ismond.
When my boys are asleep,
said Errienne, keeping her voice soft and stroking her son's head to soothe them. Their eyes played over her face, anxiety plain in the frowns they wore. Her anger stirred. The captain feels you have spent enough time with them for now.
I will be the judge of that,
hissed Errienne. No, said Ismond, you will not. At last she turned to the door. Ismond stood in the room with 3 other men behind him. She leaned into the boys and kissed each on the forehead.
I have to go now,
she whispered.
Be good and go to sleep. I'll be back to see you soon.
She smoothed hair from their faces. Rising, she faced Ismond and his henchmen, every fibre screaming at her to take them apart. And she could, all of them. But her boys would die as a direct consequence. They had no way to escape the castle grounds, and the captain had too many men. She bit back the spell, mana flow ceasing.
You didn't need your muscle,
she said.
I'm not going to cause trouble.
You and yours already have, said Ismond. He led the way to the library. Despite the warmth cast by the fire still burning in the room, the air felt cool. The captain was seated behind the reading desk, 2 soft lanterns illuminating the book he was studying. A half-empty bottle of spirits stood to his left, and beside it, a freshly replenished glass. He didn't look up as she approached across the rugs as prompted by Ismond, who withdrew, closing the door behind him. Sit. The captain waved his hand at a hard-backed chair at the other side of the desk. Tell me, he said, not looking up, why Zatesk might be after Dawnthief?
I should think that would be obvious,
said Errienne. The captain regarded her bleakly, his voice chill. Assume that it is not.
Ownership of Dawnthief guarantees domination for its owner. Why do you think they should want it?
She kept her face calm, but inside her mind was in turmoil and her heart beat feverishly in her chest. She'd kept the thoughts from her mind while she was with Errienne and Tom, but now the enormity of what the captain had intimated earlier was scaring her. There isn't much written about it, you see, he said. How much should I be worrying about it? Can Zatesk find it?
Gods, yes. We should all worry about it.
Can they find it?
I don't know.
Errienne bit her lip. That is a particularly unhelpful answer. The captain's voice rose a notch, his face flushing slightly. Well,
it all depends on finding the way into Septim's workshop. If they had the information, they could go on to recover the complete spell, I suppose. It's all so much speculation.
You still aren't helping me, said the captain.
I can help you best by reporting your concerns and information to Dordover. It would be the quickest way to stop them, or at least control them.
The captain drank deeply and refilled his glass. He smiled. Nice try, but I'm hardly going to let you take a report back to your elders merely to have both colleges chasing the same prize, am I? And may I remind you that any attempt at communion would be most unwise. I have the ability to detect such a casting, and for your boys, I'm afraid it would be fatal. Erriene's jaw dropped. There was only one way he could do that.
You have mages working for you?
Her tone was incredulous. Not every mage believes me a menace to magic, said the captain smoothly. For many, I am the only source of control. He smiled. And now you are working for me too, in a way.
As a slave,
snapped Errienne. She was badly shaken, but it all made sense. How else could he gather his information so quickly? They had to be from Liston, possibly Julatza. Mages from Zetesk and Dordover would not entertain the thought of working for him. She tried again.
You don't understand. Dawnthief is too big to play games with. If Zetesk controls it, they control everything, including you. If you make public what you know, the 3 colleges will stop them. Surely your pet mages have told you that.
No, indeed they have not, said the captain, all hint of mirth gone from his hard, reddening face. What they have told me is that this absolute power must be held by no mage or college, and that the means to cast it must be destroyed or kept by a man who has the knowledge to hold it but not the ability to cast it. Should the spell be fully recovered, I will be its guardian. Errienne found herself stunned for the second time in so many minutes, but this time her surprise was edged with real fear. If the captain truly believed he could act as guardian for Dawnthief, he was even more deluded and dangerous than she thought. He clearly had no conception of its power, or the length to which some mages would go to own it.
Do you seriously think Zetesk, or Dordover, for that matter, would agree to your holding the key to such power?
Asked Errienne, keeping her voice as neutral as possible. They will have no choice when I control the players of the game, replied the captain. Errienne frowned and shifted in her seat, a cold feeling creeping up her back. Just how much did this man know?
I'm sorry, I'm not with you,
she offered. Oh, come now, Errienne. Do you think you were chosen at random? Do you think my knowledge is so limited? You are Dordover's brightest law mage and a known expert on the multi-law nature of Dawnthief. I already control you. He shrugged. All I need now is the man most capable of casting it.
You'll never take him. He is too well protected.
Errienne was dismissive. And there you are wrong. Again. Indeed, I almost succeeded in killing him very recently. In hindsight, a fortunate failure. Particularly for you.
Why?
But she already knew the answer. Because yesterday I had the mind to destroy the means to cast it, and you know rather too much than is good for you. When I have you both, I will also have the respect I deserve to see my work through.
You know so little,
grated Errienne.
We will not help you, and you will not catch the Zeteskian.
Really? I would advise caution before making such statements.
He and I would both choose death over aiding you in your ridiculous scheme. Should your plan ever work, the walls of this castle would glow with the afterburn of so much destructive magic that they could be seen in Corina. You are not strong enough to hold such power.
The captain was silent for a time. He swelled the remaining liquid in his glass and downed it, immediately picking up the bottle to refill. Of course, death is an option you can choose, he said, pulling out an ear. But it's not a choice you should be making for your children, is it? He smiled. You need to give this matter some proper consideration. Your family depends on you giving the right answer. Isman will see you to your room. Isman! The door opened.
I want to return to my children,
said Errienne. With startling speed, the captain reached across the table and grabbed Errienne's chin and lower jaw, drawing her to him. "You are here at my pleasure. Perhaps some time alone might help you remember that, eh?" He let her go. "When you have come to the right decision, please come and see me. Until then, enjoy the peace and quiet. Isman, the audience is over."
Bastard.
Whispered Errienne.
Bastard.
"I need to protect the innocence of Beliar from the march of dark magic. I expect you to help me."
I want to see my sons.
She cried. "Then be of some use and stop telling me what a child could guess." The captain's face softened. "Until then, I don't think I can oblige." He opened his book again and waved her away. Everyone was speaking at once. Ilka was shouting at Densa, whose hands were held palms outward in an attempt to calm him. The unknown was trying to get the Zetest mage's attention, while Richmond and Talon merely exchanged confusion. Herod floated above it all, his eyes once more fixed on the shrouded form of Serindalan, the noise like the sound of the sea heard from a distance. 10 years. 10 years as founder partners of the most successful mercenary team ever formed. They'd fought together in battles they should have lost but had won. They'd walked away unscathed when blood ran thick in the battlefield massacre. They'd saved each other's lives so many times it hardly warranted a nod of the head in thanks. And now Serinda lay dead. On the very night he'd sheathed his sword for love, he'd been murdered by an assassin who struck out at the wrong man. And for what? Because the man now invading the Raven's space had stolen the key to a dead mage's workshop and the witch hunters didn't want him to have it? He seethed, his voice deadening the hubbub like cloud over the sun. He died for a key you stole. The room fell silent. That's it, is it? Satisfied with your day's work, are you? His voice cracked. After all we survived, he died for a 3-inch disc. For your sake, it had better be unbelievably important. He sat back in his chair, all pretense at bravado gone, a knuckle rammed into his mouth and tears welling behind his eyes. "Oh, it's important all right, Herod," said Ilka. The colour barely returned to his cheeks, his eyes narrow slits. "If he succeeds in recovering Dawnthief, Serinda's death could prove a mercy to him compared to what we'll be facing." "What the hell is this thing?" demanded Talon. "Dawnthief is a spell. The spell, I think. And Septon is the mage credited with inventing it," said the unknown. He looked to Densa for support. "Absolutely right, unknown. The spell itself is very well known to all the colleges of magic," said Densa. "Every magic user knows of its power, its potential for catastrophe. Fortunately, although the words are common knowledge, Dawnthief will not work without 3 forms of catalyst, and no one has discovered what they are or even where to go to find out. That is, until now. This amulet will let us into Septon's workshop, and we are expecting to find the information there." "You knew what you were looking for when we met you, right?" asked Talon. "Yes," agreed Densa. "Look, I'm not about to go into detail on Zetest's recent research, but it led us to believe that Septon was a Dragonine mage. What's a—" "Later, Talon," said the unknown. "Carry on, Densa." There were many other pointers to this conclusion, but the important fact was that it directed our search for Dawnthief in a new direction. Other dimensions, to be exact. As I explained to Ilka, we have developed a spell which can detect the mana movement and shape needed to open a dimension door. We've been through many in search of Dawnthief, all of which have been opened by Dragonine. This time we found what we were looking for. "All my friends are already dying because of it," said Herod. "You do not know how sorry I am that that is the case," returned Densa softly. "I don't need your sympathy, Densa. I need to know why the witch hunters wanted to kill you." "Isn't it obvious?" "No, it is not," said Herod. "I asked you why my friend died in your place, and you haven't told me." "Very well. To spell it out, they want me dead because of who I am and where I come from." "Why should it make a difference who you are?" asked Ilka. "I'm Zetest's principal Dawnthief mage," said Densa simply. Ilka's eyes widened. "Oh, this just gets better and better," he muttered. What? Began Talon. Hold on, said Ilka. Are you saying that you actually plan to cast it? It's the only way to destroy the Witch Lords, Ilka. We both know that. Yes, but they are coming back, and if we don't find Dawnthief and use it on them as soon as we can, we will eventually be on the wrong end of it ourselves. Finding it and threatening them with it won't be enough. They have to be destroyed, or Beliar will be lost. There's going to be an invasion, and this time we don't have the strength to withstand the tide of Westmen indefinitely. Not with the Witch Lords backing them. The Light Stealer. This is it. Ilka's words sat heavy in the air, his anxiety evident in the way he was poised, tense in his chair as if about to leap from it. What is it, Ilka? Asked Talon. You don't know what he's talking about, not really. I do, said Ilka. I've studied Dawnthief. It's a required text. Put in simple terms, technically, depending on quality and length of preparation, it can destroy everything. And by that, I mean the world. He shrugged. That's why it's called Dawnthief. It means the stealer of light, because it can take the sun from the sky. If it's so important that you find and cast this spell, shouldn't the witch hunters understand that? You think they'd believe us? Denser spread his hands wide. Don't be naive, Richmond. All they know or care about is that I'm travelling. They don't want Dawnthief found, and killing me seems the simple solution. So, said the unknown. He drained his glass, refilled it, and passed the bottle round the circle. Now we've established that you are a marked and dangerous man we shouldn't even be speaking to, why don't you confirm what it is you are trying to hire us for? The atmosphere in the room cooled. Denser looked around at the angry faces. We have to recover the catalyst, and I want you to help me. Why us in particular? Why does anyone hire the Raven? A few more details wouldn't go amiss. Denser drew breath, finding the questioning from the Raven suddenly intense. He pulled the amulet out again. Assuming this works and we find information on the Dawnthief catalyst, we have to act to recover the catalysts themselves. I need protection, plus fighting ability and defensive magical skills. I also need people who can be trusted completely. As far as Zetesk is concerned, the Raven is the only choice. There was a short silence. I'm not sure I'm getting this, said Herod. Why not just bring in a load of protectors and Zetesk mages? Surely you can trust them. It's not that simple, unfortunately, said Denser. There are political issues to consider, and if Zetesk was seen to be mounting any kind of action, we'd have the agents of the Witch Lords onto us straight away. This has to be a clandestine action as long as possible. And that's not to mention the trouble it would cause in the college cities, said Ilka. And the witch hunters, added the unknown. Bring them on, growled Herod. I will be going to them, don't worry, said Denser. So much the better. Seriously, continued Denser, they have to be silenced. What they know, or even think they know, could prove disastrous for the whole of Beliar if the wrong ears hear it. Is it stupid of me to suggest a four-college alliance if this is really so critical? Asked Richmond. Not at all, said Denser. In fact, a four-college meeting has been called, although it is to deal with the Westman threat, not the search for Dawnthief. We can't afford for the other colleges to know about our search, not yet. Ilka will tell you they would interfere in the search and place impossible conditions on the spell's use. It must be kept quiet as long as possible. He paused. Do you believe me, Ilka? The elf gazed at him coolly. That's not a question I'm ready to answer. This has severe implications for my relationship with Gelatza. I'm honor bound to tell them everything. You know that. There was another silence. Richmond added a log to the fire. I know, and all I ask is that you give me time to prove my intentions. But I do need an answer, said Denser at length. To which question? Muttered Herod. Will you help us? How much? Asked Talon. 5% of agreed value of each artifact, same idea as before. I can't believe you just asked that, snapped Herod. What does it matter how much? We already have a job to do. Herod indicated Serinda's shrouded body. It always matters, replied Talon. No decision will be made until all conditions are known. That's how it's always been. We've retired, Talon. Remember? Belial cannot afford for you to retire, said Denser. Shut up, Zates man. This doesn't concern you. Herod didn't look around. Herod, calm down, said the unknown. This is already difficult enough. Is it? We find the witch hunters, we kill them. What's difficult about that? The unknown ignored him. One more question, Denser. Assuming we recover the catalyst, what then? You help me take them into the Torn Waste and cast Dawnthief against the Witch Lords in Parv. That is, if you want to. Well, we aren't about to just hand them over to Zates, said Ilka. I didn't expect you would, countered Denser. So, has everyone heard enough? Asked the unknown. Ages ago, said Herod. Right. The unknown rose and opened the door. Denser, it's time you left. We need to talk and we have a vigil to observe. I need an answer, repeated Denser. First light tomorrow, said the unknown. Please. He gestured through the door. Denser paused before leaving. You can't refuse, he said. This means everything to all of us. The unknown closed the door behind Denser and refilled all the glasses before returning to his seat. So, who wants to go first? He asked. This is a nightmare, said Ilka. I'm not sure what to say. Surinder Lan is dead because of him. It's obvious that Rass's death had nothing to do with our last contract, and yet we're chatting about working for him. Herod was shouting. What are we debating this for? He got up and strode to the fireplace. It's quite simple. We go and kill the witch hunters. Denser can stick his spell up his arse, and this... He tore the code from its frame on the wall and ripped it in two. This is gone. They were all staring at him, or rather at the ruined parchment in his hands, eyes wide. He became very aware of his own quick breathing, the thudding of his heart and the sound of the fire behind him. He stared back, daring them to criticize or disagree. Sit down, Herod, said the unknown quietly. Why, so you can... I said sit down! Thundered the big man. Herod, still clutching the two pieces of the code, did so. We all know how much this is hurting you. The unknown's voice was calm once more. And we will deal with Surinder's murderers, believe me. But what we've just heard, which you didn't seem to take in, has changed everything. Really? Herod sighed. Really, affirmed the unknown. I expect Ilka can explain it better than me. Ilka? The Gelatson raised his eyebrows. Putting it bluntly, the two worst things I can imagine have both happened at the same time, or so Denser claims. The Witch Lords are free and Zatesk has found the link to Dawnthief. And? Gods, Herod, I wasn't joking earlier. Dawnthief can destroy everything. Literally. In theory, at least. What that means is that if Denser succeeds in destroying the Witch Lords, and we must pray that he does, the ultimate weapon will be firmly in the hands of the Dark College. And what do you think that'll mean for the rest of us? So we kill him and take the spell after he's cast it? Yes, but we have to be standing next to him to do that. We could kill him now and take the amulet, said Herod evenly. Silence. Richmond nodded. Could certainly save time, he said. And what if he's right about the Witch Lords? Asked Ilka. Get somebody else to cast the spell, said Herod. Ilka snorted. Of course. I'll go and ask Thomas if he can spare us the time, shall I? You know what I mean. It's not that simple, Herod. Denser will have been training all his life in the theory of Dawnthief casting. If he is Zatesk's principal Dawnthief mage, and I have no reason to doubt that he is, then he is the man with the best and perhaps the only chance of casting it effectively. So do you believe him, Ilka? Talon leaned forward in his chair, draining his glass and holding out a hand for the bottle that the unknown proffered. Why would he lie about this? He's risking me making a report to Gelatsa about Dawnthief, and he's right about the reaction he'd get if I did. Gods, what a mess. Ilka chewed his lip and sagged back to hunch in his chair. So, what are our options? Asked Talon. We don't have any, said Ilka. Not really. I mean, we could decide to refuse him and go after the witch hunters ourselves, but what if he's telling the truth? We'd have turned our backs on the fight for Beliar, and worse still, we'd have left Zetesk and the Witch Lords as the only competitors for Dawnthief. And Dawnthief means absolute domination. It really is that powerful, believe me. Make no mistake, if the Witch Lords are coming back, they will be coming back to destroy us all. Are they really that bad? Asked Richmond. Yes. God, yes, replied Ilka. You have to understand where they came from. They used to be part of the original single college, but were banished across the Blackthorns for their beliefs. They spent centuries brewing their hate and developing ways of making themselves immortal. When they succeeded, they came back to take what they thought was theirs. That time, we won. This time, we won't, not without Dawnthief. He paused, seeing they weren't quite with him. Look, the Witch Lords won't want to conquer, they want to destroy, to wipe out everyone in the east of the mountains. It was the promise they made when they were pushed into the Mana prison. In my view, we have to go with Denser. Put it this way, I'm going whether the Raven do or not, but I want the rest of you to do the same. We'll probably all die, but at least we'll have tried. Martyrdom from my country is not something I've ever considered as an option, said Talon. Still, it will certainly be a new departure for the Raven, said Richmond. Not just doing it for the money, I mean. Retirement brings a new outlook to things, Ilka shrugged, but his smile was forced. Certainly did for Surinder. Herod's voice was barely above a whisper. Yes, it did. We must never forget the full circumstances of our accepting this job. Assuming, of course, we all accept. The unknown looked around. I need it written into the contract that I go to see Dawnthief properly used against the Witch Lords only. I'm working for Beliar, not Zetesk, said Ilka, his tone uncompromising. And I want an undertaking on Denser's part that we will attack the Winch Hunters the first chance we get. Herod was looking over at Surinder. Got all that, Talon? Asked the unknown when no one ventured further thoughts. Talon nodded. Denser needs to sign the contract at first light, so you better draw it up now. Anything else from anyone? Just one thing, said Richmond. Shouldn't we be guarding Denser? Or the amulet he's holding, to be more accurate? Don't worry, his cattle seem safe, said Ilka. Herod looked askance at the elf, imagining the animal holding off several large armed men. Good with a sword, is it? Ilka chuckled in spite of the mood. It's a familiar, Herod. It retains a part of his consciousness, for want of a better word, and I dare say that it can take on more than one form. Oh, I see, said Herod, not seeing. I'll explain another time. Just trust me for now, all right? Right, gentlemen, said the unknown, standing. Back here in an hour for the vigil. Until that time, I suggest we all leave Herod to air his grief in private. Herod smiled his thanks, tears already forming. When they were all gone, he allowed himself to weep. End of chapter 6. Well, hope everybody enjoyed tonight's chapter. I certainly enjoyed reading it. That's why I'm doing this. I love reading this shit. It's a great book. Give us a like, subscribe, comment, anything you want to do, share the videos. Yeah, go for it. Don't forget to check out our other series of literary treats. We are also reading the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. We're on The Gunslinger, the very first volume. Tune in a couple more nights. Maybe tomorrow night, maybe the night after. See how I feel. For chapter 7 of Dawnthief, which I know you're looking forward to. Tonight's music plug. One of the best albums ever made from one of the best bands and probably the best guitarist there ever was. Pantera, The Great Southern Trendkill. Get this fucking album if you don't have it. Check out, there's like every fucking song on here is fantastic. However, title track is brilliant, Great Southern Trendkill, or 13 Steps to Nowhere you cannot go past. Well, hope you enjoyed tonight's reading of Dawnthief, and looking forward to reading for you again. This is Henry Q. Wifflebottom, signing off.